comment,
and subscribe for more content.
Where's the notification bell?
It's to the right of you.
Oh.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this edition of a Funko Podcast. I am DK Wrestler.
And I am MD Shady.
And in today's podcast, it is our 10th fandom-related podcast in a Funko Podcast history, and it's a good one, too. It's on the very popular video game series Sonic the Hedgehog, or as this podcast is specifically titled today, Gotta Go Fast, the Sonic the Hedgehog podcast. 30 years already that this game has been released, and it's kind of evolved into this huge franchise that I don't think really a lot of people thought it was going to happen at first, considering that I think everyone can kind of agree that the main reason that Sega even created Sonic was to compete with Nintendo and Super Mario. So it's cool how it's kind of evolved into some animations such as Sonic X. We even got some cool toys and collectibles, of course, like the Funko Pops we will be discussing about in today's podcast. And even the movies, such as the one that released last year, was pretty decent. And they're also coming out with a sequel to that movie next year. I guess we realistically can kick off talking about, early memories of Sonic overall, whether it's the games, the television series, or animation, I should say, the movies, anything like that related to Sonic. Not much of me, because I can't really think of like my early childhood memories of Sonic, but the only thing I could think of is like playing the little world of Sonic in the video game Lego Dimensions, and then essentially the recent movie, but also I have been catching up replaying the video games as of late for like the original game. So I guess those are my early memories. So I guess MD, what are your early memories of this game of Sonic the Hedgehog? And to add on to that, I guess, is if you were to suggest Sonic the Hedgehog to a person who've never played it, but they've played Mario before, what are some differences that make Sonic unique and worth playing?
Early memories of Sonic. I think the first time I can remember ever playing any Sonic games was over at my uncle's house, who was living with my grandmother, and he had a Sega Genesis. And I remember playing, I think he had Sonic 1 and Sonic 2, which are obviously both amazing games, but I really loved playing Sonic Pinball. I thought Sonic Pinball was a really awesome game. I mean, it is pinball, but it's also like, it's not just pinball. It's kind of like a Sonic game mixed in with a pinball game. So that is probably my earliest memory of Sonic. I love the franchise. It's great. I mean, there's so many different worlds, I guess you could say, and I'm not saying like levels of maps and stuff like that, but there's just so many different things when you think of Sonic, where you have the video games, which have a pretty long list of titles now when you think about it. Here we are in 2021 with, I believe, the newest game coming out is the new remastered Sonic Colors. I believe it's a remastering. I'm not too sure though. So there's a long list of titles. And then you also have the comic books, you have the movie, obviously, and the sequel that's coming out soon. And then there was also 2 or 3 different TV shows, my favorite being Sonic Underground. Yeah, I've had a really good time with Sonic over the years, especially being a kid and growing up. One thing that is very different from Sonic to Mario, if you want to compare them in that sense, is that Mario, a lot of the times, unless you're a speedrunner, it isn't really a super fast-paced game, whereas Sonic is super fast-paced. The main goal is to go fast, no pun intended, but that's kind of just the way you sort of have to play that game. And also, the health system is also very cool. I like how you almost have an unlimited amount of health when you think about the gold rings, where you collect the rings, and if you get knocked or hit, depending on how you want to refer to it as, you lose some of those rings, and you also kind of have a short amount of time to pick those rings back up. And obviously, once you get to 0 rings and get hit, then that's when you would lose a life, rather than with Mario, where you get hit, you lose 1 life, but you get hit again, you're basically done, and then you have to restart the level. So to sum it all up, basically, over the years, I've had a really great time with this franchise, and I'm excited for the second movie. And I mean, I really haven't had any bad experiences with any Sonic games. I know some people don't like some of them for different reasons, but I think they're all pretty good, at least.
Yeah, so I would also like to mention during this podcast that we won't be able to discuss about all of the games, not only because there's just so many games involved in the Sonic franchise, but because the 19 Funko Pops that we are discussing in today's podcast, which also around the time that this is releasing, there may be San Diego Comic-Con 2021 exclusives coming out. And if there so happens to be a Sonic the Hedgehog San Diego Comic-Con exclusive releasing, then we won't be able to talk about that in this podcast. We are only talking about, I think it's 5 different games, and I know some popular ones from the original series that I could think of off the top of my head that we won't be discussing about is Sonic CD and the first 3D based Sonic game, Sonic Adventure. So we won't be able to talk about those, but I think it's 5 different games, if I'm not mistaken, that we are discussing about today, which we might as well talk about the very first Sonic the Hedgehog game to kick off this podcast, which of course was released June 23rd, 1991, 30 years ago. Obviously created by Sega and was released on the Sega Genesis. Like all Sonic the Hedgehog games, it is a platform-based game and it is single player. Now, some of the plots for this game and I guess descriptions of characters will be provided by different sites such as IMDb and sonic.fandom.com. So, the plot for the first game, Dr. Robotnik is an evil and mad scientist who only had one destiny, taking over the whole world. And to do this, he needs to collect all 6 Chaos Emeralds, which are located on the South Island. So Robotnik goes to the South Island and turns all animals into their robot slaves. Who will stop the madness? Well, Sonic the Hedgehog, of course. When Sonic hears what Robotnik is doing, he needs to stop him, but Robotnik turns all the animals into robots, so Sonic needs to free all of his friends to collect all the Chaos Emeralds before Robotnik does, defeat him, and bring peace into the South Island again. So I guess before I can go into the characters that are featured for the Funko Pops, which will be the most amount of Funko Pops for a game, is Sonic 1. MD, what are your opinions of the very first Sonic the Hedgehog game? Any cool levels you like?
Yeah, so I guess this is a perfect time to mention something that I sort of forgot about that first thing that I talked about my first experiences with Sonic, because obviously the first one was the first game that I played. And basically is that I was a Super Nintendo kid growing up, and then going over to my uncle's and playing the Sega and playing Sonic was so much different. The first Sonic game was so much different than any game I've ever played. When you think of Super Nintendo games like Mario, Super Mario World being probably my favorite game of all time, it is really good. I mean, I don't think there's one level really that's better than any of them. I mean, obviously, the first level is kind of the one that everyone goes to, Green Hills or whatever the hell it's called. I don't really exactly remember right now. I did really enjoy the second level, I believe it is, where it's kind of the more mechanical level. It's kind of spacey kind of looking and very metallic. I believe that's the second level of the first game. Overall, I mean, there's not a whole lot of flaws with the first game. It was a pretty sharp game, and I don't know, I've never really heard anyone really having too many issues with it.
And this is where my opinion comes in because after playing the original games for the last couple of weeks and getting a refresher, I will say 100% Sonic 1 pissed me off so much. It is so challenging. A lot of the levels in Sonic the Hedgehog 1 are very difficult to play unless you know the strategies to each level. Because, yes, when you play a Sonic the Hedgehog, you love to go fast. But unfortunately, on some points during these levels, you can't go fast, or else you just end up falling into a pit of spikes, which happens so much in that game. Out of some of the original games, Sonic 1 made me rage quit out of all of them. An example of a level, and I think actually you might have gotten the games mixed up, but the second level from number 1 is a level called Marble Zone, where there is a bunch of fire in the level. I kept falling into a bunch of fire, and you got to jump on these platforms, and then there's fire falling down. But I know what level you're talking about, and I think that's in number 2. Another level that I know a lot of people hate, and I never got to reach that level, the level known as Labyrinth Zone. A lot of people refer to as the like worst level in basically the entire franchise. But I will mention the very first level, Green Hill Zone, is a great level. It's probably the highlight of that game. I admit it. And I think, like you mentioned, a lot of people do like Green Hill Zone. And essentially, it is the most common and popular level in the entire series, especially when even someone who's not a huge Sonic fan, they think of whenever Sonic goes on a loop de loop, they're more than likely thinking about Green Hill Zone. Even if you look at the different merchandising, if you have Sonic on a platform for a toy and it's green, it's because it's Green Hill Zone. But overall, I don't think Sonic 1 is a great game, but I think Sonic 1 is a good game. And at least it was good enough to where they made the sequel. So I guess now we can move on to the Funko Pops that are in this lineup. So first off, we have the original Sonic the Hedgehog from the original wave of Pops, which of course the description for Sonic, he of course is a blue hedgehog with the ability to run at the speed of sound. And of course many other variants of Sonic have been made, which we have Sonic with Ring, which of course rings serve as a unique health system in gameplay through most of the series. In most cases, as long as the player holds even one ring, it'll protect them from losing a life upon taking damage. And of course there are two variants along with this. There is a glow in the dark variant that's exclusive to Toys R Us, and there is a metallic variant involved in a Pop and T bundle that's exclusive to EB Games slash GameStop. We have the Sonic the Hedgehog with the Chaos Emerald, which a little description on the Chaos Emeralds, also known as Miracle Gems, have mystical relics tied to the Master Emerald that possesses powerful properties and abilities. Those that hold the Chaos Emeralds can use them for a variety of things, such as warping time and space, powering machines, and initiating super transformations, which we'll get into for the second game. Anyone who combines all 6 Chaos Emeralds, or 7 in Sonic 2 and after that, can control unimaginable power. And then there's, of course, Classic Sonic, a part of the newer 30th anniversary lineup. And then there was a flocked version of that Classic Sonic that was exclusive to the Funko shop. So I guess the first pop to discuss about realistically for this game is the very first Sonic the Hedgehog pop, which this pop is garbage. Straight up trash. One of, if not the worst looking Funko Pop I have ever seen. Even before this was one of the first Funko Pops for the games lineup that came out in 2012, I believe, actually. The lineup before this was Plants vs. Zombies, and even those pops looked pretty decent for a pop released in 2012. With this Sonic, especially with the way that the blue looks for the color, it kind of reminds me of those kind of ceramic pieces that you could have in a household. And if you knock it down and it hits your floor, it shatters into a bunch of pieces. That's what it looks like to me, and I don't think it looks the greatest. But speaking of a huge upgrade, the newer Sonic pops. Sonic with the ring, that's all right. I mean, it's totally understandable that they did this as a variant of Sonic because they're probably not going to make a Funko Pop of just the ring itself. I mean, they've done really obscure Funko Pops like Game of Thrones. They've done just the throne itself. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a case that did that, but it's better that they did another variant of Sonic and they just add the ring with it. And I think it's really cool. I have seen pictures of how the glow in the dark looks, and it looks all right. I feel like, though, you would need a really good charge, though, to get that nice blue color for the glow in the dark variant. And the metallic variant is also pretty decent. And I actually remember for the longest time, this was actually like a shelf sitter at our local EB Games. And about a year ago, I realized one day, like, it's gone. And it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that it's finally gone because it's been sitting there for such a long time. And you would think with such a cool piece, especially with the way the box looks with the arcade machine and especially the shirt, that this would be one of those huge sellers. But at least at our local EB Games here in Canada, it was kind of a shelf sitter. And I don't remember the size of the shirt, so maybe that's why it was sitting on there. It could have been like a extra small or something. The shirt is really awesome, and I feel like this is the Pop and Tea bundle that kind of started the whole thing of sweet boxes for Pop and Tea bundles to come. Sonic with the Chaos Emerald, I like this better than the ring just because I just like the idea of him holding a Chaos Emerald. That's the point of the game, is to get all of the Chaos Emeralds. And besides the glam shot we're looking at right now, if you actually see photos in person of the pop, the Chaos Emerald is actually kind of like a translucent color, which is kind of what I imagine the gem should be. So I think that's really cool. And I do like the idea that they chose green as the color because there are so many different colors, but I think the green really pops out to essentially Sonic's fur color of blue. Then we got the classic Sonic, and I just remembered now that I totally forgot to mention about a Funko Pop in this lineup, and I will mention that in a sec, which is classic Sonic, both the common and the flocked variant. I'll mention quickly is that these are really cool. They really executed him running. It could have turned out very terribly, but it ended up turning out really good. And I think either way, both the common and the flocked are great, especially with the flocked one where it's got that nice royal blue color. But the character I totally forgot to actually mention about for these Funko Pops would be the antagonist of the entire series, Dr. Eggman, also known as Dr. Robotnik, which this pop is pretty cool. I like the detail involved with the whole glasses and the goggles, and just his pose overall just makes him so menacing. I wouldn't be too surprised in the future they actually made a Dr. Robotnik in his, like, I guess, hovermobile. I don't know what to, I was going to call it the Death Egg, but I don't know if that's the actual name or the Death Egg is something else.
Yeah, the original Sonic is definitely not one of the greatest pops in the world, that's for sure. I'm not going to hate on it too much because a lot of pops weren't amazing back in 2012. And this is kind of a more obscure character, I guess, because he's not just a human like a lot of the pops that we were seeing at that time. It is definitely not amazing, especially with the white eyes, but also I think black eyes on this would probably look even worse. But then, of course, we did get an upgrade, and the upgrade is pretty substantial. I mean, these look awesome, these new Sonic Pops. They are very great. I somewhat enjoy the Sonic with the ring, but I think it would have been better if instead of doing this, they would have gave us like more of a pop deluxe of Sonic where let's say he's kind of sitting down where he's just gotten hit and he has like a bunch of rings circling him like what happens in the game. I think that would have been more accurate because not a whole lot in any of the medias, I guess, for Sonic do you really see him ever holding a gold ring. I do like this, and obviously going from the original Sonic to this one, I mean, it's night and day. Which one is better, obviously? The glow in the dark is all right. Like you said, you'd probably have to have a pretty high charge just to get this thing to glow because blue is not one of the better colors. And I don't know, it's not amazing. And I don't really see why we needed to have a glow in the dark one. I do like the metallic one. I like how it turned out. I also mentioned in a previous video how this whole pop and tea combo kind of is just amazing. The metallic's cool. I really like how this lighter color of blue kind of worked out with the metallic, but the t-shirt and the box are amazing. And like you said, that's kind of, it really paved the way for really cool boxes on pop and tea combos. So this is one of my more favorites. I do really enjoy the Sonic with the Emerald, and I do think it was a very well decided pick to do the green emerald because a lot of the times with merchandise with Sonic, you do see that green emerald, mostly because I think it's the first one that you collect in the game. But I do own a couple different Sonic figures that have a green emerald rather than any other color. So that makes a lot of sense, and I really enjoy the Sonic Pop. Then the running Sonic, these are awesome. I love the flocked one a lot. I really enjoy the kind of darker color that came out of the blue with it being flocked. And I really enjoy how it turned out. Kind of like you said, this could have been pretty bad. And yeah, it could have been really, really bad. This thing could have looked like hot garbage because it's kind of a bold move to kind of just throw a bunch of plastic around some feet and expect it to give a visual of running, but I think it turned out very, very well. Using the translucent red plastic makes a lot of sense because you can still see his normal feet, but it also gives the illusion of him sort of being in motion. So this is one of the greatest Sonic Pops, and I don't know if there would be a version of Sonic that would be a whole lot better than this one. And then we have Dr. Robotnik or Dr. Eggman. And this pop is great. As soon as this came out, I knew I had to snatch it up. I would have liked to see a flocked one where just his mustache was flocked. I think that would have been really cool. But it also doesn't make a whole lot of sense to have a flocked pop, and so little of the pop is flocked. But this has a lot of great detail. It is the only human pop that we've had from the Sonic the Hedgehog lineup of pops. It looks good. The stance is really great. It looks so much like Dr. Eggman. I love how the hands are a little different as well. You have the one kind of completely clenched fist and then the one that's kind of open. He looks very angry, and that's kind of how he is throughout the entire series of games and shows and just about everything. So it's a super accurate pop, and I don't know if they could ever do a better Dr. Eggman pop in the future.
All right, so now we're going to move on to Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Now, this game was released November 21st, 1992, so about a year and a half later from the original version. Of course, still being released on the Sega Genesis. It is a single player game, but it is the first game of the entire series where you have the ability to play multiplayer. Now, the plot here, Sonic the Hedgehog returns, and where there's Sonic, there's Robotnik. This time, Robotnik is planning a world takeover while trapping animals in capsules or turning them into robots. With his new pal Miles Tails Prower and the ability to spin dash, Sonic must find the 7 Chaos Emeralds and stop Robotnik once again.
The second game is amazing. I mean, arguably better than the first. The first game was very innovative, I guess, and was a great game. I know it was a little frustrating, but it was what it was. But the second game really comes to life when now you have multiple characters to play. And now when we look at it to today's day, like Tails is just so iconic. Whereas back, let's say, when the second game came out, he was a brand new character. And obviously, I'm sure a lot of people were hyped over being able to play two-player and being able to have a second character. But now Tails is just so iconic, and it makes a whole lot of sense because he's a great character, and the game was great. The levels were just as good, if not better, than the first game.
Sonic 2 is so much better than Sonic 1. Oh, I can't say it enough. They took out so much of the negatives from Sonic 1. And yeah, a lot of people do consider Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as the best game of the entire franchise in the past 30 years. So much easier to play than the first game. The ability of Spin Dash is amazing because sometimes you have a hard time doing the loop-de-loops there, but with Spin Dash, you're actually able to do the loop-de-loops no problem. And yeah, great levels in this game. So many. They're fun. They're still kind of challenging, but they won't make you rage quit like it made me rage quit for the first game. Example, Emerald Hill Zone, which is kind of an update of Green Hill Zone, except it's a little bit lighter. But I think now the level you were trying to mention about earlier when discussing about the first one is the level I'm about to talk about right now with the most banger song in the history of video games, Chemical Plant Zone. It's so hard to kind of explain right now, but it is such a great level, such a banger song. My God, so great.
You're definitely right. I was definitely thinking of Chemical Plant Zone. This is one of my favorite levels from Sonic and like the whole franchise. And yeah, it definitely is a Sonic 2 game.
Also, another super fun zone that was so good that they ended up recreating it slightly different for the future games is a zone called Casino Night Zone, where essentially it is a pinball machine and you can earn coins in it if you land in the certain part, and it does the little slot machine spinner where you can get like 3 Sonics in a row, or it's like I think it's like 2 Sonics in a ring and you get like 200 rings or something. Or you could possibly get 3 Eggmans and you lose all your rings. Like it could be that much of a gamble, but it's so fun. But I will mention actually, this isn't my favorite game, but not by much. But I totally understand after replaying this game so much of how many people could consider Sonic 2 as the best game of the entire franchise. So, with the Funko Pops that we are talking about, there are 4 of them that we are discussing about for this game. The first one we have is an EB Games slash GameStop exclusive Super Sonic, which, of course, the Super is a transformed state that Sonic becomes once he collects all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds. After seemingly destroying the Death Egg, Sonic used the 7 Chaos Emeralds he collected from the West Side Island to transform into Super Sonic so he could fly safely down to the planet. The next pop is the original Tails, which of course Tails is Miles Prower, a main protagonist along Sonic in the series. He's a yellow fox with twin tails, hence his nickname. Tails was a victim of bullying during his youth. One day, however, he met Sonic the Hedgehog and was inspired to become as cool as him after seeing him run like the wind. Tails soon after began following Sonic on his adventures and has since become his best friend and sidekick. He is able to use his twin tails to fly by rotating them like helicopter rotors and is a mechanic genius and aerial pilot. There is also the newly released TargetCon 2021 flocked variant of Tails. And of course, actually, the newest Funko Pop we are actually going to be talking about on this podcast is the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 Pop game covers that will be exclusive to EB Games in Canada and GameStop in the US. Supersonic, this is okay. It's cool they did Supersonic, but all they did was do a color swap. They took the Sonic the Hedgehog with the ring for the original one and just added yellow instead of blue. I felt like this would have been so much better if you had him in some sort of pose and you have a cool base with this, kind of like they do with the super forms for Dragon Ball Z pops. And I think that would have made it so much better for this, but still cool that we have that. Tails, he has that kind of look with the original Sonic there, because this is the original Tails we're talking about. It's better than Sonic, I'll admit that, but still not the greatest looking Funko Pop. But then we have the newly released Flock Tails from TargetCon this year, and this looks so much better than the other Tails. I love the way that the flock looks, especially with the yellowy orangey color. I know there's a lot of people that are wishing like his tail wasn't so much the side there and that it was more like the 2-pack that we're eventually going to talk about on the podcast, but it's better than nothing, honestly. And it's better than the original one, honestly. And then we have the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 pop game covers. Now, if you guys listened to our podcast a couple weeks ago when this was actually announced, I had mentioned I wasn't going to really go into so much description because we have the Sonic podcast. And now I can go into description about talking about this pop. This is great. I am glad they made it Sonic the Hedgehog 2 rather than 1 or possibly even 3 and Knuckles. Because, first off, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people do consider Sonic the Hedgehog 2 as the best game of the entire franchise. And not only that, it has one of the best covers, probably actually the most iconic cover in the entire series. Unlike Sonic the Hedgehog 1, where it was just a black cover and it's literally him standing there with like one finger out. And then there's number 3, where there's a cool background, but it's literally Sonic standing there with his one hand sticking up with 3 fingers out, showing that it's the third game. And I think that's kind of boring. But with this, of course, the game cover, like I mentioned, is so iconic. And I feel like this was perfect because of the fact, like, I know there could have been more options. Like, example, people wished it was Tails. But actually, as I look at this game cover, I think the Tails that is in this game cover is actually the same exact pose and look that they did for the TargetCon 2021 pop. So it would have been stupid to kind of like re-release it in a game covers. This Sonic is perfectly fine where his eyes are kind of sticking out more and his arms are crossed like it is on the cover. And something I wanted to bring up about this, and I actually found this out today as we are recording this, is that there are 2 alternate Sonic the Hedgehog 2 pop game covers. Now, what I mean by this is that if you are ordering this in the US at GameStop, what your cover looks like is this black and gray checkered look on the background. But if you order this internationally at, let's say, Pop Culture, you have a orange and yellow checkered background with this pop game covers because they are matching either the Sega Genesis version of the cover or the Sega Mega Drive cover, which has that yellow and orange background. So it's really cool that they have these alternate covers, and it makes collectors think, do I want to get both of these because these are alternate covers per se? And now my biggest question is, does EB Games in Canada get the black cover or do we get the alternate cover? Because if you can get that sweet EB Games exclusive sticker that clearly is way better than both the special edition sticker and not only the original GameStop sticker, but that trashy new GameStop sticker, and have the alternate cover, that would be great. And I think it would pop out so well.
All right. So starting off with the Supersonic, the first thing I want to say is that you are wrong, DK. This is not just a repaint. The head is completely different. He kind of has this angry look to him. And for some reason, I don't know if this is accurate to the game or not, but the head sits higher on the shoulders than the normal Pop, where you can kind of see his neck a lot more, which I don't know if I'm a super fan of, but I also think it might be accurate because I do remember seeing, at least with the one of the original action figures lineups. So overall, it's not bad. I'm glad that it's not just a repaint, but at the same time, I do agree with you where it should have had maybe a clear base where he's kind of inverted, where his chest is sort of sticking out and his arms are kind of behind him, where he's kind of getting the power. I feel like that would have been a better variant or version, I guess, of this pop. But I'm also glad that we saw this one. And this is a pop that would make sense if it was glow in the dark. And then we have that original Tails, and this is Nightmare Fuel. This is one of the scariest pops I've ever seen. You can look at pops from, what was that movie called? Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark or whatever, with like the Harold pop and those pops, or any other horror pop, and they are not as scary as this goddamn Tails. This thing is freaky. It's so creepy. It looks terrible, but I would not be upset if I owned it, to be honest. And then we have the flocked tails. Amazing. I love it. It looks so much better. There's just so many reasons why this is better. It looks more accurate. The pose is very nice. You can't go wrong with a flocked pop when it makes sense like this. So I really love this pop and I can't wait to buy it. And then we have the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 game covers. This is also very amazing. I love this version of Sonic. I love how the eyes are a little bit bigger, which really makes sense. And it makes sense for this pop. I love his pose, how he kind of looks smug like he does on the cover of this game. I honestly think what should have happened with this potentially is that it would be the first ever sort of cover of any sort, whether it's game cover, album cover, comic book cover, movie cover, if we see that one day, where it's sort of a two-pack where you also have Tails. They don't really have to do much to make that pop, like you kind of said, where it's already the same position, except have it not be flocked. I think that would have been really, really cool. But that's not a gripe against this because this thing is already amazing.
All right, so I guess we will now move on to Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which this was released February 2nd, 1994. This was released on the Sega Genesis and Windows PC, and this is both, once again, single and multiplayer mode. Tails flies Sonic to visit Angel Island. When they arrive at the island, Knuckles, the guardian of the island, attacks Sonic and steals the Chaos Emeralds. As it turns out, Dr. Robotnik crash landed on the island after his death egg was destroyed. He has convinced Knuckles that Sonic is the bad guy and must be stopped. As Sonic and Tails fly to stop Robotnik's latest evil plans, they must get past Knuckles as well.
I would definitely say out of all of the games in the series, besides, let's say, some of the newer titles, I guess you could say, on the Wii, the third one I definitely did not play a whole lot of. I definitely played it, that's for sure, because I do remember a lot about it. But I definitely did not play it as much as the second game, which I obviously played the most, or the first game, or let's say games like I mentioned earlier with Sonic Pinball, or a game that I think we're going to be talking about later, so I'm not going to quite mention it yet.
Before we actually go into my opinion is, do you know the alternate title to Sonic the Hedgehog 3? And number two, do you know the person who actually composed the majority of the soundtrack for Sonic 3? And see if you know this.
I'm not sure if I do. I can't remember exactly if it's an alternate game or if number three is Sonic and Knuckles. I'm not exactly sure, and I have no clue who composed the music for it.
I'll pretty much give you there the alternate title is Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And the reason for that is because originally both Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Sonic and Knuckles were supposed to be combined into one video game. However, due to not having
Ah,
any more memory on the cartridge, they had to separate the games where it's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and then later on in the year, the game Sonic and Knuckles was released. So people often refer to it as Sonic 3 and Knuckles for the alternate title. And this one is going to probably surprise you since you don't know it, is that Michael Jackson composed the majority of the soundtrack for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. However, he was uncredited due to, at the same time, he was dealing with the child sexual abuse allegations. So instead of scrapping the soundtrack and making new music, they just uncredited Michael Jackson so that they didn't have to erase the music, but still use it in the soundtrack during the game, which kind of sucks because you have a big celebrity like Michael Jackson who has gone on to record that he was actually a huge fan of Sonic the Hedgehog and he was able to do the soundtrack for the game. And then now he's uncredited because he's dealing with these allegations. But I will also mention that Sonic the Hedgehog 3 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles is my favorite game that I have played for the Sonic series. The main reason is not for the fact that, of course, my favorite character in the series makes his debut in this game, and we will talk about his Funko Pop in a sec. But first off, the levels are as enjoyable as the second game. Angel Island zone is pretty cool, but the second level, Hydrosity, is so awesome. It's a water level, and a lot of water levels suck. You're underwater for too long and then you won't be able to make it to the surface, but they make it so cool, so fun, and so easy with Hydrosity. It's actually got a bit of a storyline. Unlike the other games where it's mostly collect Chaos Emeralds, beat Dr. Robotnik, this now has more of a developing storyline in the game because now you have Knuckles and he's kind of confused because he's being told that Sonic is the bad guy, but Dr. Eggman's the bad guy. And even at the end of the game, I'm pretty sure Knuckles realizes he was tricked all along, and that's how it starts up the friendship between Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails that would lead to essentially different animations and the movies in the future. And the number one reason why it's my favorite compared to the two games is because it's the first game to actually have the ability for saving progress. With the first two games, if you played for a certain amount and you lose all your lives, you have to start off at the very first zone, which is frustrating, especially with number two. I would get to the fifth zone, and once I lose my last life, I have to play at Emerald Hill Zone all over again. And that's the same case with the first game. You would have to go back to Green Hill Zone. So at least with this, if you make it to essentially Hydrosity and beat Angel Island Zone, you don't have to go back to Angel Island Zone. You just have to start off at Hydrosity, which it comes in handy because as much as I like Chemical Plant Zone for number two and people like Green Hill Zone from number one, I don't want to keep repeating those levels all over again. I kind of, want to beat the game. So that's a huge reason why I think Sonic 3 and Knuckles is better than number two by only a hair. But let's move on to the one and only Funko Pop for this game, and that is for my favorite character in the entire series, Knuckles, which is a red echidna and protector of the Master Emerald. He's first introduced as an antagonist, but later becomes a main protagonist throughout the series. His dominant traits are his super strength and the two spike-like knuckles on each of his hands, from which his name is derived from, which he can use to dig with and climb walls. He can also trap the wind under his dreadlocks to glide through the air. That is so badass. That's a reason why I like Knuckles. Knuckles has traits of both Sonic and Tails of why he is my favorite character in the entire series. He uses Spin Dash, so he can basically go as fast as Sonic if he wants to. He can kind of fly by gliding like Tails, but he also has the super strength where a lot of times when Sonic has to go through walls, he has to use Spin Dash, but you can literally just walk up to a wall as Knuckles and it breaks on its own. And climbing walls, that is amazing because the amount of times I want to climb something and I can't to get to a certain part, but with Knuckles, Knuckles, you can just climb. And the Funko Pop involved with this, it definitely is the best pop out of the three original pops with the Tails and the Sonic. It looks like a pop that wasn't released in 2012. It could have been released in like 2014 or 2015, but we definitely do need an upgrade. And I can't wait to see an upgrade because it's a matter of time before Funko pulls the trigger and makes an upgrade, a sweet upgrade of Knuckles in Funko Pop form.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you with a lot of things that you said there. Knuckles is a badass. He is an awesome character. The ability to climb is definitely something that was huge with the third Sonic game. And yeah, that Knuckles pop was definitely the best out of the three. It is the one that doesn't look amazing, but also doesn't look like nightmare fuel or doesn't look just like a big pile of crap, essentially. It's a decent pop, and maybe it's a little biased now because it's the only Knuckles pop that we have. And yeah, we definitely need a new one because even though this is very cool and I would love to own it, I would love to see a new Knuckles because I'm sure Funko would just knock it out of the park with that.
Are you looking for great pop protectors? Then look no further than popbox.ca. They have a variety of 4-inch and 6-inch protectors in different quantities. Do you want to get 10 protectors, 20? You can get even up to 250 pop protectors over on popbox.ca. And also use our promo code of Funko Popcast for 10% off of your entire purchase of pop protectors. The code is going on until supplies last. So go get your pop protector needs now over on popbox.ca using our code of Funko Popcast to get 10% off and also free shipping over $75 in both Canada and the US with duty fees included.
And let me tell you guys, we're not just screwing around here. These are some great pop protectors. We own a multitude of these protectors. They are some of the best I've seen. Stop buying from EB Games. I'm not boycotting EB Games by any means, but their pop protectors are not as good. So again, use code Funko Popcast for 10% off.
All right, so now we're moving on to the second last game we are going to be discussing about for this podcast, and that is Sonic Adventure 2, also known as Sonic Adventure 2 Battle. It was released June 23rd, 2001, so exactly 10 years after the release of the first game. It was released on the Sega Dreamcast, Nintendo GameCube, PS3, Xbox 360, and Windows PC. Once again, it is single and multiplayer. Sonic is arrested after being falsely accused of crimes committed by another hedgehog named Shadow. Meanwhile, Eggman threatens to destroy the world in 24 hours with a planet-destroying weapon if the world doesn't surrender to his rule.
So here it is, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle, my favorite Sonic game. I just have so many great memories with this game. I love even to this day going back and playing it. I just loved this game for so many reasons. I mean, maybe because it's like one of the better 3D Sonic games. I know a lot of people aren't huge fans of it, but I know it also does have almost a cult following at this point. That first level, maybe you can tell me the answer because I don't remember exactly the song or the artist, but I remember it was a banger song.
I'll be honest here, I have not been able to actually play Sonic Adventure 2 yet. I have watched gameplay and seen people's opinions on YouTube for this game, and from what I'm seeing, this game looks sweet. I think if I play this game, I would really enjoy this game. First off, there are two story modes. There is a hero story mode and there is a dark story mode. And by playing those, you get two different sides of the story. Another reason that I feel like this game would be great is that it is actually the first game where you can actually play as Dr. Eggman as a playable character, which sounds sweet. And also, there are multiple storylines going out throughout the game, even though there are the two main ones, but there are main storylines such as Sonic basically is feuding with Shadow, which we'll get to the Funko Pops just in a little bit. Throughout the majority of this game, Tails by himself is against Dr. Eggman, which I think it's really cool because it shows like Tails could probably do stuff on his own and not have Sonic, which I think is a really cool story arc because, of course, everyone mentions Tails as kind of like this sidekick. He probably can't do things by himself, but I think this game would probably prove that Tails could probably hold a feud on his own, and he's doing that to save Amy because I think Amy gets captured. And then Knuckles is looking for the gems throughout Angel Island because Dr. Eggman tries to destroy them. And that also introduces the character of Rouge. And one thing I also do want to mention, I forgot to mention it, is that this game was actually the very last game that Sega released on one of their own platforms. But anyways, let's move on to the Funko Pops, which there are three to talk about, which are all shadows. So we'll talk about the normal shadow, which I'll give the description. He is a Black Arms hybrid hedgehog that was created as the ultimate life form by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. Essentially a dark version of Sonic, Shadow can match him in both speed and skill and can use Chaos Control with the Chaos Emerald. There are also two more variants of this pop. There is a Hot Topic exclusive Shadow with Chow. Chow, I'm pretty sure those are like those little pet things. I haven't really looked into detail as terms to that for gameplay. And then you also have what I'm pretty sure is the most expensive Funko Pop in this set. It is the E3 2018 limited to 1,500 piece Super Shadow, which of course, once again, it is a transformed state. It's the same thing as I mentioned about Sonic, except it is Super Shadow, but he becomes this when he is forced to basically team up with Sonic in order to defeat what I guess then it's claimed as the ultimate life form, which is called the Bio Lizard. These are some cool pops. It's cool we got a Shadow pop. A lot of people do like Shadow, sometimes maybe even more than like Knuckles. I'm kind of liking this original Shadow and the pose that he's in. I like the color scheme of Shadow overall. It's not like Sonic where he's just all blue, but you have the black and it goes with the red, and I think it looks really good. And even having Shadow with a Chow is pretty cool, honestly. I'm surprised they didn't make like a Sonic with a Chow or even Tails with a Chow, but they chose Shadow, which I think is cool, and they made it so that it is going with the colors of Shadow for this. And then we have the Super Shadow, which is super expensive, $654 Canadian as of this recording. I like it. I like the pose that it's in. I do like the color scheme with that yellow. It makes the red really pop out well. I think the same thing about this as the Supersonic, where I feel like it should have had some sort of cool base and exactly how you were mentioning of how the pose they do for when they go into that super mode. But also, I feel like though, for this kind of pop, they could have done a common or maybe an exclusive just using this. And if they made this maybe glow in the dark, then you can do 1,500 pieces instead of having this really not basic, but I guess I can say basic pop that ends up being 1,500 pieces and makes Sonic fans like MD really mad because most likely there's a chance they might never be able to obtain it because of how expensive the pop is.
Starting off with the original Shadow, this is really cool. I really like this pop. I like the pose. It's very similar to the pose that we see with Dr. Eggman, which makes a lot of sense. So that's pretty cool. I do like the Shadow more where he has the Chow. And to answer your question, Chows, basically how they are raised is kind of what kind of form they take, I guess is the best way I could explain it. So because it's Shadow, that's why we have this black and red sort of Chow here. And Chows are really awesome. And then we have that Super Shadow. And yes, it is very expensive. And yes, it does kind of tick me off a little bit because I would like to own that pop, but I kind of have a lot of other pops I would like to get before that one, I guess you could say, because it kind of really is just a color variant. So I do agree with you 100%. This should have been a common or even, let's say, like a Target exclusive, and then had the glow in the dark version be the 1,500 piece, because I don't need a glow in the dark version, but it would be cool to have. But I do need at least one version of a Super Shadow.
All right, so moving on to the last game we're going to be talking about. It is Sonic the Hedgehog, the 2006 version, celebrating the 15-year anniversary. This game was released November 14th, 2006. It is only released on the PS3 and Xbox 360. Once again, single and multiplayers. In the city of Water Salina lives Princess Elise. Elise is the keeper of a dark secret, the Flames of Disaster, involving a mysterious jewel known as the Chaos Emerald. The evil Dr. Eggman learns of the flames of disaster and kidnaps the princess. Once world-renowned hero Sonic the Hedgehog learns of this, he sets off to save the princess and the Chaos Emerald, but his quest is interrupted by a strange white hedgehog from the future called Silver, who talks of the Iblis Trigger, who apparently is Sonic himself. Sonic must save the princess, stop Dr. Eggman, and figure out what the mysterious Silver wants.
I haven't played this game actually. This is one of the Sonic games that I haven't played, but I've definitely watched people play it on YouTube. This game seems all right. I don't think it is a favorite. A lot of the games that came out after, there's a lot of mixed opinions on, but I do think it's an all right game. I mean, we have some more characters now, mostly talking about Silver, obviously.
So I have not been able to play this game either. And from the gameplay I have seen, it makes me not want to play this game at all. I think the storyline that I have seen just seems a little whack where it's like Sonic goes to save a princess. And I know there's a scene where like the princess kisses Sonic because like Sonic's dead and then he comes back to life. And then there's also a lot of time travel involved in this. And like there's a lot of times where it's like you go to the future, you do something, you have to go back to the past, but then the past there's something wrong once again. So you have to go to the future to go fix that. It's so complex and weird. And I feel like, in my opinion, if I want to play a game that involves a princess storyline, that's where I say, why not just play Super Mario? And then if I want to see a lot of time travel, and this is just my opinion, I would just go watch Back to the Future. But who knows? Like I said, I have not played this game. So realistically, my opinion shouldn't matter because I haven't played. But we'll talk about the 3 Funko Pops involved in this game. All 3 of them essentially involve the same character. So the first one is Silver, which is a hedgehog from 200 years into the future. His role is to protect his time by changing the catastrophes of the past, thus preventing the ruining of his era. For his mission, Silver makes use of his psychokinesis, an ability from his time that is considered the norm, which allows him to move objects with the power of his mind, which there is the common version of Silver, along with the Hot Topic exclusive glow in the dark variant. And the last pop we have here is the Super Tails and Super Silver 2-pack that was a San Diego Comic-Con 2020 shared with EB Games / GameStop exclusive. Silver, he seems like to me he would be the highlight of this '06 game. I think it'd be the only thing that's worth like playing for, essentially. And I guess it definitely makes sense because I know there are a fan base of people out there that like the Silver character, but overall the way that his character looks is pretty cool. And I know from what I've seen in photos that the glow in the dark actually looks pretty decent considering that it's white, and sometimes white is a hit or miss as terms to the glow in the dark aspect of some Funko Pops. I know you own this Funko Pop, so you can actually probably further your opinion on this when you discuss about it. And then the Super Tails and Super Silver 2-pack. A little known fact, Super Tails and Super Silver are not in the same game. The reason I put this in this section is because it has Silver and his first appearance is in Sonic '06. When doing more research, Tails actually has only 2 appearances throughout the Sonic series in his super form, with his first appearance being in Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Now, I also seen in the gameplay for this game, Sonic '06, that Silver, Shadow, and Sonic go in super form to kind of end off the game and defeat the villain in that game, but Tails does not. So it's kind of weird that they ended up putting 2 versions of super characters of different characters instead of putting it more video game accurate. But I think in this case, it was like they wanted to re-release a Tails. And I think that was kind of the buying point of this and why people would probably want to get this is because of a new Tails. But then you also introduce a new character in Silver, which is pretty cool. But I felt like it should have been 2 separate pops and you can call it Super Tails and Super Silver and not put them in a 2-pack, or just do like one or the other, in my opinion.
Silver is a really cool character, and this first pop is awesome. I love how it turned out. More importantly, I loved how the glow in the dark one turned out. I like glow in the dark. I can't lie though, I don't know if I've ever checked the glow on my pop. I do like that it's glow in the dark though. I think that we needed a glow in the dark version of Silver, and I'm glad that we got it. Then moving on to the 2-pack. This is how the super versions of these characters should have been done, where you have that base and you have them sort of floating. This is very awesome. Both of these pops look very, very cool. And I do agree with you that it should have been not a 2-pack, but a bundle where you get one pop and you have to buy the other at the same time. These are great. And I do agree that Tails was definitely one of the bigger selling points. That's definitely one of the reasons why I wanted this 2-pack. But I also think that the Super Silver turned out pretty well. I don't like it as much as, let's say, the Glow in the Dark version, but I think it's a pretty good pop. And we also haven't had a 2-pack for the Sonic the Hedgehog lineup. So I think it's also kind of cool in a way that now we do have a 2-pack.
All right, so now we are going to move on to what Funko Pops we want to see next in the Sonic the Hedgehog lineup. Now, for myself, I actually pulled the MD Shady from the last fandom related podcast and basically suggested one, not because I wanted to suggest more, but I thought this is more of MD's highlight here for fandom related podcast because I know he was super excited about this fandom related podcast this year. Now, you guys are probably thinking that I am going to suggest a Knuckles pop, which, yes, but that is to a certain extent. The pop that I actually have written down is Super Knuckles. And the reason I wrote Super Knuckles is because not only is it a cool variant of Knuckles, but it's different from the other Super Pops. Because as you can see with what we just talked about with the Super Tails and Silver, and you see with the other Super Pops, they have a yellow color. But when Knuckles goes super, he is actually pink. And I think that's pretty interesting. And I think you could do this as some sort of exclusive, or just maybe if it gets released this year, you can release it in October in promotion with Breast Cancer Awareness Month because the color is pink there.
So now moving on to me, I have listed down 10 different pops that I would like to see. To start, I have Amy Rose. I think that would be a very cool pop. Amy Rose is obviously more of a popular character now in the Sonic franchise. I think it's a matter of time. I'm sure we will see, I would say probably about half of the pops on this list, I think we will see eventually. Second on my list, I have Metal Sonic. I think Metal Sonic would be really cool. It could be metallic, obviously, which makes sense because he's metal. And I think that would be a really great looking pop. Then I have Rouge the Bat. Rouge the Bat is a pretty cool character. I like her. And I think it's just kind of one of those unique characters that you don't really think of too much when you think of the Sonic franchise. But at the same time, I would love to see a pop of her. And then I have Cream the Rabbit. And I think it would only make sense if she had her Chow, I believe it is, that she has with her with that pop. And if it was flocked, that would be cool too. It would make sense to be flocked. A lot of the Sonic characters would make sense to be flocked. But I think Cream the Rabbit would be kind of more of a top tier one that I'd like to see being flocked. And then I have one that I'm sure a lot of people would love to see, and that is Big the Cat. And that would be probably the only pop in this list, possibly the only pop for the Sonic the Hedgehog lineup. That would be a 6-inch pop. I love that character. I know a lot of people also love Big the Cat. He's pretty much a meme at this point. I think maybe that might be my top one for a Sonic pop, besides obviously, like we said, a Knuckles, which I'm sure we will get. That's why, spoiler alert, he is not on my list. Then I have Vector the Croc. This is also kind of an obscure character, but I also think that a pop of him would look really, really cool. He's green, so maybe if they did a glow in the dark, it might look good, but I don't think it needs to be glow in the dark. Just a common Vector the Croc would be awesome in my books. And then I have a 3-pack, and this 3-pack is of 3 Chows. I guess you could probably do like the blue Chow, you could do the black and red Chow, and then the white Chow, I think it is, that has like angel wings. I think if they did those 3 in a 3-pack for Chows, that would be super cool. I mean, you're getting closer to kind of life-size form, and I think a lot of people would pop pretty huge for that. And then I have the only pop rides that I've listed down, and you kind of discussed this earlier on in the pod, and that is Dr. Eggman in the Eggmobile, which I'm pretty sure is what it's called. It might be called Eggomatic as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I know that there are a few different things throughout the series that Dr. Eggman / Dr. Robotnik has ridden in, but I'm talking about kind of the floating kind of egg spaceship, I guess you could say. I wouldn't be be opposed to also seeing him in that kind of big tank with the huge drill on the front. I think that would look awesome as well. But I think it's more iconic where he's in the Eggmobile. And then I have the only glow-in-the-dark pop on this list, and that is a glow-in-the-dark version of Chaos Zero. I think that would look really, really awesome. You could have him completely translucent, and either you could have every part of this pop glow, but I don't think you need that. I think just the green eyes should be glow-in-the-dark, and I think it would have to be some kind of exclusive, maybe even a limited piece, which is kind of unfortunate to say because I might not be able to get my hands on it. But I feel like that is a character and a variant, I guess, of this character that kind of needs to be a little more limited than, let's say, just a shared retailer. And last but not least, I have Sonic the Werehog. Now, this could potentially be a 6-inch pop, but I think it would just be one of those kind of normal size pops where you kind of get a good bang for your buck, where it's just a hefty, big figure inside of this box. And I would love to see a common and then maybe a future flocked version, because obviously Sonic the Werehog is very, very furry.
All right, guys, so that is going to be the end of this week's podcast. If you enjoyed this special fandom-related podcast on Sonic the Hedgehog, make sure you smash that like button. Comment in the comment section below and let us know your favorite Sonic the Hedgehog Funko Pop, and let us know what pops you want to see next in the Sonic lineup. Press that subscribe button for more content like this podcast and any other videos we do on this channel in the future, and press the little bell beside it to be notified of when that future content gets released. And if you guys haven't yet, follow us on all of our social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at A Funko Podcast. It'll be listed in the description below. But anyways, guys, thank you for listening to this very special fandom-related podcast on Sonic, and we hope to see you guys next week. 1, 2, 3, I'm out of here.
Can I get a chili dog? Gotta go fast. Peace in, peace out.